We're going to break down Randy Arozarena's swing, breaking a home run record in the playoffs. There's going to be something to learn from, okay? So first, when we're breaking down mechanics and analyzing, we want to know the pitch location for the swing, and we want to interpret the timing. Here we're gonna look at pitch location. Most of his home runs during the playoffs were to right field. And as you can see in this one, the pitch is supposed to be outside and is outer third. The next thing we want to interpret is timing. We'll go back to another swing. This is another home run to right field. The way I interpret this is that he is out in front, or he thinks he is. And the reason I think I interpret that is because he leans forward through his follow-through. And what the mind is telling him is that he needs to slow the barrel down in order to match up timing with the ball. And he's decelerating out front, which causes his head to dive. Okay? But that timing, even though he's a little bit off timing, it doesn't mean that it's a bad swing. So we know these pitches are outside. Okay, we want to understand that. Timing on this one, very close to perfect, if not perfect. This one, out in front slightly. And this one, timing looks close to perfect. Okay, let's go back to the first one and get into the mechanics. Starting from the stance, we're going to put the center line through his body, and then we're going to go into the furthest point back in the swing. And you often hear it called the load or the gather or getting into the back hip. Okay, so you see that, and you see that he has moved slightly back into a forward facing angle. Okay, this 76-degree angle tells me that is going to have momentum forward, and his linear component is going to be aided by gravity. All right. So now, with a linear component, we want to mark the furthest point back, where he is at now, and then we want to mark foot plant. Okay, one thing in this video you have to notice, see how this red line moved forward as Randy did? You have to take that into account. All right, at the furthest point back, this red line is contacting the corner of the padding. So once we get to foot plant, right there, we'll redo this center, and then we will put the starting center back where it needs to be. Right there. Okay, so you can see that he moves forward a little bit, about half the length of the plate. Linear components are individual to everybody. Some people like going further forward more. Other people, they don't. There is always a slight forward movement because that aids weight transfer and rotation. Once we get to foot plant, we want to check the hips. The things we look for in the legs and the hips at foot plant are the position of the belt, telling us the direction of the hips, and the knees, the angles in the knees. The back leg has not gone into internal rotation yet. You see that I'm marked at 172 here, and as I go down into internal rotation, I go through 180, and then the angle starts to go down. And that's what you'll see in his leg. Okay, so his back leg internally rotating is a driving force for the whole system's rotation. Okay, go to the bottom screen now, and we are synced all together. So pay attention to the piping on his pants. You can see that it does not go hard right at any point. Okay, it stays, it's on this line, and then it creeps right, and then it's down. And now, once it's down, and what I mean by down is that there's weight in this front leg. You can start to see the muscles flexing in that leg. And you can also see that he is in the center of his legs, therefore causing mass to be in the center. Okay, there's weight on both legs. Weight distribution in the legs is a key component of rotating properly. As the front leg accepts weight, we start to rotate. Okay, hip goes to shortstop, hip goes a little further, hip fully opens. Okay, and majority of the weight is now in the front leg. At this point, the legs are balanced and all the power is sent up the chain. So now we move to the upper body. Once we get to foot plant and the front leg starts to accept weight and the hips start to open, we're in the separation phase. The way we look at the separation phase is we have to mark the bottom hand, okay? And then we have to pay attention to its movement as the body starts to rotate, okay? So pay attention to the top one first and ignore the bottom screen. One frame, the hip is open. Okay, go to the bottom screen and look at the piping on his hip. He's opened a little further. Now check back into the top frame, the top screen. So we have 2 frames that this left hand is still on the green line, okay? Whenever we set up the proper base in the swing and we accept weight on the front foot, keeping this left hand back is creating another center of mass. And you can see that when we talk about turning the barrel. Okay, we have to create an axis for that. You'll see foot plant, and then this barrel will start to turn around that axis. Okay, and it gets pulled forward because of the linear momentum. But if this left hand does not stay back on this green line, there is no separation. There's no two separate masses. So the better we stay on this line, the more separation we will create. What you will also want to look at is the elbow position at the last frame that this left hand is on that green line. Okay, and I'm going to measure this angle from his elbow to his hand to his elbow. Okay, 76 degrees. And then you can't measure this angle too well from here because it's a weird camera angle, but you can see that they're relatively the same. They look very similar. The elbow is under the bottom hand, and there's a straight line from the barrel through the hands, and the elbow is supporting it. The bottom elbow is supporting it. Whenever we set up the 2 points of axis in the body and the hands, we are going to create the most acceleration in the swing. Okay, so when we get to foot plant, okay, pay attention to the barrel as it starts to really move, and then these next 2 frames, it is at the highest acceleration. And you can tell that by the amount of distance it covers in these slow motion frames. And I'll also show you a graphic to prove that the ellipses orbit is gives the most acceleration. Okay, so here to there, almost a 90-degree turn, and then out front, almost 180 degrees in 2 frames. In an ellipse, there are 2 axes, the major axis and the minor axis. Major marked by A, minor marked by B. Onto the motion graphic. Pay attention to the pink line and the red line. The red line is solely going off of one axis and has a constant radius, and the pink line is going off of 2 axes and has 2 radii, just like the graphic here. Okay, and we will see a greater rate of acceleration in the pink line than we will ever see in the red line. In order to get to contact point, we need to accelerate. Moving in a circle is slow. Accelerating in the barrel in the behind you is the fastest point to contact, and these ellipses orbits prove that. Once we get past this frame and the acceleration is done, the barrel starts decelerating, and you can see how it slowly starts moving. As the frames go out, the barrel's moving less, it's covering less distance. Okay, and that is why we gain control of it, and we can use our hands to direct the barrel. Because the barrel is decelerating, we want to look at extension as a product and not something we force. If we have the correct mechanics behind the swing, the correct mechanics will be on the front of the swing. Okay? And it is not a coincidence that this line points to right center field, and that's where he hit that home run at. It's also not a coincidence that this arm goes straight through the barrel, and this arm is very close to running straight through the barrel. Okay, when the body lines up in straight lines, 180 degrees, almost 180 degrees, energy is released. Okay. Pay attention to contact point. Okay, so we'll go contact point here, roughly, and contact point there, roughly. And we'll see, okay, on the bottom, or on both, this left arm is straight, and it goes straight through the barrel. He has created and released the most energy that he could. And that's why a guy that's not huge creates so much power. His mechanics are flawless, and the energy is released at the perfect time. And then extension. Left arm bent here, right arm close to straight. Right arm bent here, left arm close to straight. If there are any questions or comments, feel free to contact me or leave them in the comments. It'll give us another topic to talk about and to learn from. So all questions are welcome. Any critiques as well. Anytime you produce as much as Arozarena did in the playoffs, there's got to be something that he's doing that is right. And we can see that he is almost mechanically perfect, if not perfect, and that supports his success. If we can learn to move mechanically correct, then we will see more success on the field.